Okay. Good morning. I'd officially like to call the City of Nisswa special council meeting for this Friday, August 29th, 2025 at 9:30 a.m. to order. Our first item B is interim city administrator contract discussion and action. And the only notes I had on this is when we've done contracts in the past, since Jenny Max left for interim administrators, we've done a very thorough contract. If you guys will remember past meetings where the personnel liaisons, we've worked with the labor attorney to get the key components in the contract into place and get alignment on that before going into the council meeting. So everything could just be, if it was approved by council, could be done in separate motions. But in talking with our labor attorney this week, he said that moving forward for any interim administrator, that we don't have to have a pre-negotiated, agreed upon contract in place. We can just discuss the key terms in the body of the motion for a forward-looking interim administrator. Does that make sense? That's all I had on this one. I'm not sure if I'm articulating or explaining it correctly, but Mark, you look confused. So if you have a question or comment.
I have a question. What is the, you call the meeting, right?
Yes.
What is the action that you're requesting that we?
So the action is that from our labor attorney, we don't have to have like a fully executed agreement like we have in the past, that it can just be for a forward-looking interim, just an agreement on the council on the key facets, like the amount per week, the dollar, the rate per hour for any hours over in the amount of time committed. So I guess it's not necessarily an action.
Okay.
Any questions?
No.
Does anyone else have anything on this bullet point?
Makes sense.
Okay, perfect. Then item C is discussion and action on a forward interim administrator, since Keith will be concluding his time with Nisswa next week. I believe it is on the 4th. Before we get into discussion, the attorney sent out attorney-client privileged and protected non-public data email to all of council last night. Hopefully everybody had a chance to read it. It did include in there a resume for a prospective candidate for the interim administrator by the name of Krista Okerman. She was not able to be here today. Longtime employee, clerk, treasurer with the city of Jenkins and then the city of Greenfield prior to that. So before we get into discussion on this, we do need a motion and second. And so based on the language that was sent to us last night, I will move that the city of Nisswa employ Krista Okerman as city administrator on an interim basis, subject to the following. 1, Krista Okerman accepts employment. 2, Krista Okerman's employment will be subject to the items included in the components of an employment outline of August 28th, 2025. That would include the following highlighted areas of the document. A would be $2,000 a week. B would be $80 an hour. And C, the amount would be 24 hours or 3 days a week. Designees will consult with legal counsel to execute this motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, now we can go into some discussion on this. As I mentioned, you guys all saw the resume, but longtime clerk and treasurer in the city, our neighbor to the north, as well as I believe Greenfield was also on there. It was also brought to my attention that she had previously worked on an interim basis with the city of Nisswa in a similar role. And I'd like to actually turn it over to Maggie because Maggie was here at this time and might have some perspective to share with the council.
Good morning. Yes, Krista worked with us on an interim basis back prior to Jenny Max. Don't ask me the time frame, but she's very knowledgeable, smart, willing to help. She might even know some of our systems from back when she worked with us before. I can't say anything bad about her. She was fantastic when she came to work with us before.
So was she working with Jenkins and Nisswa at the same time?
She retired.
She retired.
She retired.
Well, if she was here interim before, and she was with Jenkins from 2007 till now.
Yes,
So she was working with Jenkins and Nissel at the same time.
correct, back in that day.
But Councilmember Fraley, she retired with the city of Jenkins, and
Right.
it is my understanding her last day there, I think, was August like
26th, I
twenty-fifth
said.
or sixth. And am I correct in understanding, Tom, you maybe also have some experience in having worked with her previously?
My experience would be similar to what Maggie has just described. So she's pretty much everything Maggie said. She's seems like a reasonable person to fill this interim role to me. I nothing bad to say about her. I think she's will work well with it.
Okay.
Super.
Well, I'd like to turn it to council for any questions, comments, thoughts. Like I said, I know she wasn't able to be here today. Councilmember Hall, I'll start with you.
My thing, I had talked to her, Krista, on the phone. She seems great, personable. Like she said, she had told me she had worked within the city before, the staff, I'd reached out to a few of the staff. All the staff have given positive feedback that she was great to work with. Yeah, she's more than willing to come in here, knows the area, the people, and like I say, she's already done this before for the city. I believe, don't quote me, but I believe she said last time she was here from like April timeframe through like fall, October, November timeframe for about 6 months when she helped us out before Jenny was here, is what she said. So anyhow, everything that I've looked at, talked to her about, yeah, I think she'd be a great fit for us.
Councilmember Zahn?
What is the duration that we have intended for?
I don't know that it specifically says in the document that the attorney sent to all of us. I'm
Was
just-
there any conversation had with her regarding start date, term?
She said she is willing to work with us and start with us whenever we needed her to. She did give a couple dates coming up here in September where she already had like a little trip scheduled for a week, 10 days. And I said, yeah, we'd work around that. Otherwise, she's available to start immediately, when we want her to and go from there. And, she knows that, part of this meeting is to hopefully find a contract firm to do the full search with, so she knows that it's an interim basis. She's willing to work with us for whatever time period. She lives in the area. It's not, she's not traveling or anything like Tim was or any restrictions like that. So
Okay. And then again, the basis of work week, I missed the hours. You said
Oh,
24
so
hours a
yeah,
week.
because what we have been doing with Keith and then previously Tim was 3 days a week, so call it 24 hours. So that was what I made for the motion, and then essentially $80 an hour, which is a difference. If you'll remember, the contracts we had approved for Keith was at 100 and Tim was at 90, so this is a little below that. So it was 2,080 and 24.
The two contracts, so what what the labor attorney had sent over to us in that
Send it different.
memo last night was there's two different hourly rates, there's two different salaries, but a similar rate for Mr. Hiller here. So it appears that this amount is over. Just curious where the $80 derived from in lieu of 75 that we had prior.
Well, we can remake the motion. Sorry, I missed that. Yeah, because I was looking at this for Mr. Hiller, the 2,400.
Based on,
See. Per week. And then additional per hour for each hour over. See, it's, I don't know. if
Got
you
it.
see that. Right, so what I was saying is.
just what was in our packet versus what the the labor attorney provided, the salary, the weekly salary the prorated salary difference was
Correct.
substantial. This is from the labor attorney. This is from our staff.
Well, let's finish seeing if you have more than the two other council members, and then if we need to amend the motion, we can. Councilmember London. Okay, Councilmember Fraley, do you have anything else?
I'd just like to be involved in some of this stuff because it seems like all of a sudden I come in and boom, we got a person that's up for it. And I think it would be kind of nice if, and I don't know how everybody else feels, but it seems like you and Joe knew about it. I just found out this morning. So it'd be kind of nice, and they're not here. I'd be kind of like to talk to them, interview them like we did with Mr. Hiller and Tim, and not just, oh, here's somebody, you know, that's how I feel. I feel like some things are being done behind the scenes, you know, and this is kind of stuff that should come to the council so that we can talk to the person. I don't know her, you know, I'm sure she'd be a good fit, but I'd just like to talk to her, meet her before I make a decision. That's where I stand.
Yeah, that's totally understandable. I don't think anything's being done behind the scenes, so to speak. I mean, we're limited by open meeting law. You can only talk to one other council member about anything. Personnel liaisons, this didn't just randomly come out of blue. There were some staff recommendations that maybe went some places, and you know, this isn't like a 2-week thing. This is like a 1-day, you know what I mean? Where it's just coming about. And because per our ordinances, we are required by law, we have to have someone in that position the minute Keith is out of the position.
But so this ordinance we want to follow, but an ordinance a week ago, we didn't want to follow. And that's what I'm looking at too. And I've got a lot of, you know, Joe says all the countless number of emails and calls he's gotten. I've gotten a lot of calls on that meeting, and I'm sorry I'm veering from what's there, but on the meeting we had with the special meeting prior to the city council meeting, a lot of people said that to them it looked like that Mr. Hiller and our zoning.
I want to stay on
zoning
topic,
were-
Councilmember
I
Fraley.
know,
So
but
I hear what you're
just think
saying, but
because
we
this
need
is
to
how
stay
I
on
look at
topic.
that it was a firing squad, that they were brought in here just, the purpose, as a couple of them said, is to see if Mr.
Well, let's
Hiller
stay on
was-
topic for this. We're talking about a
So in-
forward-looking.
So what I would like to do is personally, before a decision, I'd like to have that person in here so we can talk to her.
Yes,
That's
you
just-
can, you are certainly entitled to vote how you would like to vote on this motion.
Button here? Here, you can hear me. Please speak into the mics. Oh, I'm sorry, Alan Jenkins, down on Nashway Road. Please speak into these mics. I believe they're directional mics. If you've got them down here, you can't hear a thing. Some of us have been in the service, worked around big, heavy equipment, Air Force in particular, jet engines, construction trade, yes, also. Please speak up for us. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the floor. Per Councilmember Zahn's note for the different contracts, I'm willing to pull back that item B in the motion language from the $80 an hour and change that. I'm just trying to do the math in my head. I go down to, am I doing the math right at 60?
You know, Councilmember Freely, if I may, I do. Thank you. No problem. I do agree. It is worthwhile being able to have a discussion, put a face to the name, somebody that we're going to be bringing in a very intimate position here in leadership. I have never met her, talked to her, understand, 2 council members have, and that's good. Good start. But I am on the same page you are.
Okay, well, we have a motion and a second on the floor. I'm going to reread the motion. I move that the city of Nisswa employ Krista Okerman as city administrator on an interim basis, subject to the following. 1, Krista Okerman accepts employment. 2, Krista Okerman's employment will be subject to the items included in the components of employment of August 28th, 2025. That will include the following: in the following lettered highlighted area of the document. A, amount 2,000 a week. B, I had said $80 an hour, but Tom, I can just amend that, right? I can rescind that motion, like amend the,
You have a second, correct?
yes.
You have to rescind your motion and then
Yes.
start again if that's the case and get the second rescinded, yeah.
Okay, so I'll rescind the original motion. Are you willing to rescind the second?
Yeah.
Okay, then I will restate the motion as I just read up to the three amounts. So A, $2,000 a week, B, $60 per hour, and C, 24 hours or 3 days a week. Everything else remains the same. So I remove that motion with the amendment.
Second.
Okay. We've heard discussion. Any other discussion? Otherwise, we'll go to a vote.
I do know,
Councilmember Hall?
yeah, she had wanted to be here. She had a prior commitment, had to do something with her family. She did say that she was very open, you know, with talking to anybody, meeting with anybody, phone calls, stuff like that. So by no means, you know, trying to do anything, but, it's, this stuff really came up really within the last 24 hours that she was available. Like I say, our own staff and stuff, that's how I knew about it. Like, hey, do you guys know anybody? And they're like, hey, because of, you know, Maggie's kind of contact in the world, hey, this lady's retiring. She was in here before. She might be a great fit. So that's where I received the information from to do this, just so you all know, like, hey, is there anybody out there in the community that's retiring to do this? And that's how this all came about, really. So it's really based upon staff recommendation, highly recommending her and just saying, hey, she was already here, a great fit. I don't know, Tom, have you worked with her or know anything about her yourself?
Yeah, I have. I was city attorney in Jenkins for a long time, while Krista was there, including when she started. Krista's very capable. And really, you're lucky to have somebody in this neck of the woods that's able to take this. Obviously, the city's in a bad spot right now with this interim position, so this would be a good move for the city right now.
And I want to echo what Joe said, and I do want to address Councilmember Fraley. I think it seems to me, because we've been in kind of this fluctuating period over the past couple months, and I'm not saying anyone's doing this, but not to assume negative intent and assume things are happening behind the scenes and out of the public realm, because that's not happening either. I heard about her from, rumblings that staff had worked with her before, that she was available. I actually called some of my counterparts, other mayors in the area, just to say, hey, do you know this woman? Do you know anything about her? And everybody said very positive things. So then I got her number. I reached out to her. This wasn't a 30-minute conversation. This is like a 10-minute conversation, right? Just to ask about her experience, and then learned she had been at NISWA before. And then last night at the fundraiser over at the Pickle, I had the opportunity to just chat with Maggie briefly and found out Maggie has extensive experience with her and had very positive things to say. And then now I've heard that Tom as well. So for two long tenured staff members that were here, and a conversation with her and positive things from other folks in the community, other city employees, that seemed positive enough for me. But I do understand what you're saying. It is more optimal, but I think, as Joe said, he spoke to her and she wasn't able to be here today. So,
But by all means, she wants to reach out. No, that would be our thing for everyone to interview or do, you know, that would be my thing. I have never personally met her. I've just talked to her on the phone and stuff too.
So you and the mayor have talked to her, but the rest of us haven't. And now you want us to make a vote and a decision. And you're saying, yeah, we should all interview her after the fact.
you can vote no, Mark.
I know that I can vote.
So,
Right.
So I'm just saying that. So in the future, look at that, please, and say, okay, let's discuss this before we come in to make a motion and movement. I know we have to have a city administrator because the ordinances, one of the ordinances that we want to follow now, but, and I'm sure she is a great person. I just don't know her. I've never talked to her.
Sure.
So,
It's just the
so
time-
please,
the
in the
time frame
future, just please look at that and say, okay, instead of just jumping into it, but you know, let's allow us to all to discuss it before.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right,
Was
we,
there- I have one last. piece
yep,
of
council
information.
members on.
Was there any indication in conversation with her that she was available next week?
Yeah, that was my understanding.
I've got.
Yeah,
some-
that she's available to start next week.
Yes.
Yeah, that,
Was she available to meet for perhaps an interview next week?
never asked that, but also too, with our timeline, scheduling special meetings, doing it back to back, we're up against the timeline window to do that, to meet and do the interview in a timeline window, so.
Councilmember London has something. Oh, can you speak into the
Yeah.
mic?
She sounds very good. I've heard some nice things about her and, seems like she'd be a good fit, but to keep everybody happy, is there a way that maybe you could call, a special meeting or something and have her come in and we can all sit and talk to her and everybody feels comfortable and maybe take the vote that day, do that and.
You guys can call a special, well, we've got a motion and second on the floor, so we should vote. Yes, a special meeting can be called. You have to give 3 days notice. Keith's last day is Thursday.
So we're.
You're
kind of
up against the
we're
clock
kind of out
here.
of time to do that.
Yeah,
I guess is what we're up against, and so.
because we've got Labor Day Monday, so the city's closed Monday.
If we could do it close to that or just to get it done so everybody has a chance to talk to her and everybody feels good about it, then there's no question and we can do a vote then and.
I have no,
I have no objection.
I don't have an objection.
There's been nothing scheduled with her though, too, so to call a special meeting and think that she'd be available right then
We
during
got,
that
we got to
time
talk to
frame.
her to see her
Check with her,
schedule.
reach out to her and see and then get back to us and everybody.
Okay, well, just, someone can certainly do that. Staff could do that, whoever. Just a note, I'm leaving for Europe Monday, so I'm gone. But it sounds like for folks to feel more comfortable, it'd be Councilmember Fraley and Councilmember Zahn that need to speak with her. And if it's something you guys want to call a special meeting for, great. I'm not going to call it because it wouldn't be proper since I'm not going to be in the country. And I likely, depending on when the meeting's called for, I'm not going to commit to being able to join because I'm on a 8-hour time difference here. So, you guys can do what you see fit. But we have a motion and second on the floor, so we do need to vote on it. And 2 council members can call a special or the mayor. Like I said, I'm not going to call it because I don't think it would be appropriate. I'm not going to be here. So we do have a motion and second on the floor, so let's just go ahead and vote on it because we do need to close that out. So I'll start with Councilmember Hall.
Did you have anything you wanted to comment, Tom?
Oh, Tom Pearson, do you have anything you want to add before we?
I don't want to complicate this, but you wouldn't have to call a special meeting. You could continue this agenda item. It's a noticed meeting. So if you wanted to do that, you could do it without a special,
Okay,
calling a new special. Having said that, I said what I said earlier about what I think about Krista and what I think about the situation, so.
Okay. Councilmember Hall,
yeah, I'd vote yes.
Councilmember Zahn.
Nay.
I will vote yes. Councilmember London,
Hey, I trust the opinion and some of these other people here that talk, city attorney, I'll vote yay.
Councilmember Fraley.
Nay.
Okay, motion passes 3-2. We certainly can set up Councilmember Fraley and Zahn. I do believe you have the non-redacted version of her resume, which would have her contact information. So I would encourage you both at your convenience to reach out.
I don't have a non-redacted.
It should be in the privileged communication that came from the labor attorney last
Okay.
night.
I'll look at that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone. All right, the next item on the agenda is a discussion and action for approval of a search firm for a permanent city administrator. Keith, you were able to pull together 2 quotes. Did you want to share any kind of high level or anything with the council?
I sure will, Madam Mayor. I reached out to 2 highly respected executive search firms that are used consistently throughout the state of Minnesota. You will notice that the attachments are there for your review. I would point out a couple significant differences. Obviously, the cost is pretty significant. I will also point out that SC also does, if you require another executive search within 2 years, they will complete one additional search at no cost. I think that's quite a benefit to the city, and the rest is up for council discussion.
Thank you. Before we go into questions for Keith, I just want to note that I don't know if any of the other council members did this, but I went through and called the references yesterday. I tried to get as many as I could on both firms. I was a little bit limited because I don't have knowledge with either firm, but based on the references, it was an overwhelming, very positive for this search firm called South Central Service Cooperative. I spoke with 3 folks on their reference list. As it relates to the MGT, I was only able to get in touch with 2 because some of theirs were in Minnesota where years past and it's new council members or mayors and I couldn't get in touch with them. But our neighbor to the north, Breezy Point, had used MGT and their feedback was okay. It was more neutral versus the other references on the SCSC were very overwhelmingly positive. We'll turn it over to council for any questions for Mr. Hiller on the search. Councilmember Fraley, we'll start with you.
No, I've just asked around as you did, and I would be comfortable with SCSC, the South Central Service Corporate. That's where I'm leaning.
Okay, Councilmember London,
Nothing.
Councilmember Zahn.
I too reached out to a former employee of this city and 2 other contacts I've made from the League of Minnesota Cities. Feedback from MGT was good. However, it's very hard to not look at the price difference. And in regards to the executive search, Mr. Hiller, executive search in my industry means a C-suite technically, right? Would that be for any position within the city that we'd be looking to fill? Well, for context, would this, if another search is required within 2 years, is that for any position that we'd be looking to fill within the city, like a department head, for example?
No, I do not believe so. That would be for the actual search that you are conducting. So if you're looking for city administrator clerk, I would be for that specific purpose.
Got it.
Also, I did want to add, if you wouldn't mind, Madam Mayor, that both of these firms did offer up to come and do a presentation. So if council's wishes would like to get them in front of them before they make a final decision, they most certainly would do that also.
No further comment.
Okay, Councilmember Hall.
Yeah, I'd be in favor of the cheaper outfit. And you just hit on it too, as far as our discussion too with them. I believe the last time a search firm came in and did this for the NSWA, they also kind of put together analysis on the clerk versus, or I'm sorry, administrator versus administrator clerk position. And that's something that we still need to discuss exactly. Is it a clerk administrator, strictly administrator, the finance stuff, how does all that work? I know maybe that's not the discussion right now, but that still needs to be discussed.
Yes.
So,
And we can talk about that when we get to F a little bit too, if that's okay.
super.
Okay. Is there any council member that would like to make a motion as it relates to approval of a search firm at this point in time?
Mayor,
One,
Oh, Maggie,
can I just make a quick
Yes.
comment?
please.
Sourcewell does have a grant too for third-party consulting that they would pay a portion of this. I don't know if it's a half and half. I'd have to look back at, it's a matching thing. So if we spend 10,000, they spend 10,000. So there's an opportunity for that. And then just to piggyback on Joe's comments that before we start with them, we probably need to figure out the structure of the admin team because we can't move forward with SCSC or MGT before I apply for the grant. So keep that in mind, because we
Mm.
can't start that process
Is there a
grant.
specific time window for the grant, or is it just like a rolling basis?
It's when funding is available, so their window just opened on July 15th, and so it's good through June 15th.
Okay,
And so as long as funding is available, so sooner the better. So I don't know if it's maybe part of the motion or what, as you guys move forward, that we could just reach out and apply for that.
thank you. Councilmember Fraley, did you have something? Or were you about to make a motion? You looked like you were about to.
I
stop,
was, but
couldn't tell.
I was, actually, I was going to ask if Sourcewell did have funds, because that's one, we've used that before. And yes, usually you have to, go ahead, Keith.
I would like to piggyback on what Maggie said. So if you do make a motion today to engage the services of SCSC, then you've already commenced the process, which will cause difficulties for Maggie going forward, because you've actually engaged the process. We can let the city attorney weigh in on that, but just on a side, being on a conservative, cautious side, it would be nice if it was paused if you're seeking grants.
Tom, yeah, can you weigh in on that, Tom?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. You need to let Maggie apply for the grant and get the grant and then
Okay.
engage this firm.
So I wonder if something we could do then, instead of motioning on this, because at least some of us have done some reference checks at this point. We do have our council retreat coming up on September 18th. It's only 3 weeks away.
And the regular city council.
And the
meeting.
regular council meeting, then that gives time here, so we're not rushing things, and then we can,
Is that
explore
enough
these
time for you,
grants.
Maggie?
I'll
Keith,
make it work.
I just want to make sure that I think them are great ideas there, Madam Mayor. However, you do add them to your strategic planning session. You just want to be very specific that if you're adding anything that's outside of the strategic planning session, that you specifically line item what those things that you're all going to talk about with specificity, so that the public is aware that you're going to talk about things outside of the strategic planning session.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do have, as council members on said, we do have a council meeting that week on Tuesday. So that still gives a little bit of time here. So if the council's in alignment with that, we could just maybe hold on this
Mhm.
item for now. Okay,
But do make a motion to direct Maggie to seek
Yeah.
the grant funding.
I'll make a motion that Maggie seeks a grant through Sourcewell to help with the executive search firm.
Second.
Is there any additional resources from Minnesota League of Cities? Possibly worth exploring, running the ground?
I can look at it for sure.
Okay,
There is, I think, yeah.
okay. Good. Well,
was there a second to Councilmember? Okay,
Second.
is there any other discussion from council? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. All right,
Gotta wait for those nays.
next up is agenda item letter E, increase in hourly rate for finance specialist extra duties. This was brought up at our last council meeting by 2 council members, I believe, Councilmember London and Councilmember Zahn. In that having a gap here with a city clerk, that Maggie, it has been our understanding, has taken on more responsibilities and duties as it relates to her role. So our labor attorney did send language, motion language. I don't know if everyone had a chance to see it, again, in the privileged communication for a temporary pay differential for the finance specialist, Maggie. And Maggie, I don't know if you want to, before we jump into anything, if you want to make any comments at all about the workload. Everybody knows you've been working really hard.
Well, it's probably given. We had a full-time city clerk that is no longer here. And I'll say fortunately and unfortunately, maybe, that I've done most of her job. So I know a lot of it already, so it makes sense that I'm picking up the slack. It's a lot of work.
And Keith, you had prepared a overview for the council. Would you like to speak to that as well, please?
Yeah, I don't disagree with Maggie's assessment. I have had time to really take an in-depth look at the city clerk and the finance specialist roles and responsibilities and duties. And I think if you take a deep dive, you will see that Maggie is really almost performing the duties with the job description that I provided to the council. She really is acting as the finance director and human resource director in almost every respective category. She provides direction to myself, to the other department heads. She's working exclusively with PFM. She works exclusively with workers' comp. I mean, I could just keep going down the line here. So I think it would be advantageous as the council goes forward to kind of look at maybe a realignment that better suits the actual duties that Maggie is completing for the city of Nisswa. And my recommendation would obviously be to follow the labor attorney's recommendation, because I do think additional compensation is warranted. However, long-term, I do think a bigger, broader view and a realignment with a new job description would be appropriate.
Okay, do we have any questions from the council?
Yes, I do.
Council members on?
In regards to Keith, your cover letter for topic E, budget impact grade 18, is it to assume that each dollar figure scaling from left to right is a step?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yep. It is a step, and it's very consistent with the other collective bargaining agreements. I would like to say that, with my experience over the years, this job description really lines up with the same or similar city to the city of Nisswa. Also, the pay scale, remarkably, is in alignment also with the city that is same or similar in our size. So I didn't just arbitrarily pick the numbers and or that grade. And again, I just think the city council should take a comprehensive look at those duties, because not only were they mixed and matched between the city clerk and the finance specialist, which causes some confusion because they're all kind of out of classification. So I realigned them to be more reflective of Maggie's current role and job duties.
It's almost that there's two different items, but the one that's on the agenda is, so the way I see it, the two different items, one is increasing her hourly rate for the work that she's really contributed to go over and above her core responsibilities. But then a second different discussion is there realignment of the position at some point within the organizational structure, right? Those are two different things. As it relates to just the extra work she's been doing on the hourly basis, I mean, it seems like she's doing the job maybe of like 2.5 people. So when I was looking at this last night, knowing where Maggie currently is at grade 9, step 9, and again, I'm just looking at the increase in the hourly rate for the extra duties in her current role as finance specialist. I thought, why wouldn't we bump her for the time she's done it and the time she'll continue to do it to keep her at that same step level? So that would put her at, call it $53.55 or $55.17 per hour, whereas she's currently at $32.64. And again, so everyone understands, the lens I'm looking at it through is strictly just she's taken on like the extra work of a person and a half during this time, and to not short her for that. But that's just where when I was looking at this, where I kind of, what popped into my head.
Can I just make
Maggie,
a
yeah.
correction? I'm at step 10.
Oh, you're on
currently.
step 10, sorry. Okay, so. But it's roughly what that, if you take the average, about $20 an hour. Keith?
That's not typical, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
Typically, there is room for negotiation, of course, and it's total council discretion. Typically, what would happen is, when you move to a new scale, a new job, you would start at the beginning, and you would work your way up, which, if you notice, would still be a pretty significant hourly increase. If she's at step 10 at 3428 to move to 4354, that's a significant increase. I did provide the scales for you just as a jumping off starting point. It certainly doesn't mean that after a comprehensive review and having it the job description evaluated, points assigned and put in there, that you might not adjust that later. But that would be a significant increase, and I would probably say, in my experience, out of the norm to jump from top to top.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'd like to hear from the other two council members, if you have any thoughts or perspective, Councilmember London.
Well, she definitely deserves a big raise for, what she does. She's a lot of responsibility. She's done an excellent job. And she deserves a raise, and she does a lot. She does more than she's expected to do, and she's been a very loyal employee, been here 12 years. And I think we should take care of her, give her the best raise we can.
Councilmember Fraley?
Yeah, I agree that we need to, it will compensate for the extra duties. I also agree that, we need to realign that position and, we'll have to hire another person. But also with unions, yeah, it's very out of the norms to go from a one grade top to a higher grade top. It's usually that grade top to a higher grade low. But I'm not a labor attorney or anything, so I believe in compensation, but not that large of a jump. Sorry, Maggie.
Yeah, Councilmember Zahn, did you want to say anything?
Well, another thing for consideration too is, we're talking about the duties that she has taken on due to our city clerk's resignation and scale back of responsibilities until her last day. Should we be considering something retroactively as well in regards to she's been taking these duties on for an extended period of time since Ms. Kiki has resigned? Is that another thing that we should be considering here? In regards to the step scales, I understand all sides. It is imperative to be considerate because it is a jump. However, Keith, Mr. Hiller, I do have a question in regards to the approach of this. So Maggie is I don't want to say union member, but technically you are, I guess, a union member. You have a contract with the city based on the financial specialist title. Are we discussing not just pay increase, but are we also considering the position change as was?
No, the motion as we have it on the agenda is only for the increase in her role as finance specialist for her extra duties. That's why, Councilmember Fraley, I suggested a larger jump because I'm just looking at it from the
Shorter
extra, it's a
timeframe,
shorter
correct.
time frame, right?
And then we realign all of this with the new city administrator, the new, what we just discussed with
Right, and
bringing
it-
on the search firm. They help us realign all of this and then we set the thing. So I just see this as a shorter window is the way that I'm seeing it.
Yes.
Unless I'm mistaken.
And I,
If we jump to that 40-some thousand increase, it's just temporary, I understand that. But if I were Maggie and you offered me that higher 5517 as a temporary, and then you do a job subscription and change, I would say that's where I need to stay.
yeah, and we don't have a specific motion on the table at this point, so it's just conversation, but to
I know, but-
Councilmember Zahn's question, of the retroactive, if we look at past precedent with how this council has motioned this year, we have gone retroactive. So I don't see that
That shouldn't be
being
a
out of
problem.
standard practice with what we've done.
Right, but it would be the scale or the hourly rate that we're going to go to that will be under discussion, I guess, so.
Well, I think, Keith,
To answer your question, sir, yeah, the motion on the table, I provided the scales for a form of reference so that the council can have discussion as far as what would be a range for the duties that are currently being performed. My only comment in regards to the placement is typically people, when they get promoted, they usually don't go to the top of the scale. And also, we don't want to interfere. As you'll notice, I have that listed as an exempt position. It's typically those positions are. The current position belongs in a collective bargaining agreement, and we don't want to interfere with the ability to negotiate through that also, that agreement. So just because it says exempt doesn't mean, of course, that that's how it's going to end up. It's just what's in front of you today. But it's just a guideline for the current motion that you have. Otherwise, you're kind of just shooting at the, at the stars, kind of trying to pick a number. So I wanted to provide as much information in a short period of time as I could to the council.
And to that point, appreciate that. And to that point, Councilmember Hall was referencing, window, right? What is that window? Is the end term when we have a additional deputy clerk hired on board? Is that when we have a full-time city administrator? Where that's the gray area. I want to paint something at least on the back end so we know what that target window is.
I would,
Otherwise, right now, it's a definite.
yeah,
right?
I would think we would define it as when we have like a, whatever you call it, a deputy clerk in the role that she's not then doing the work of 2.5 people, right? Then that work is going back to that position. So then it's not there's no kind of end date, if you will. A council member Fraley, then Keith.
How, going back to what Jesse said, is how would this, okay, so we go to the temporary, which I'm all for retroactive. But will this in any way, even though it's temporary, will that affect the contract negotiations of this year? Does anybody have an answer for that?
It may or it may not, depending on what the council's wishes are. So the temporary thing is a completely different situation. I would caution you, though, to where you make the mention of she's just going to go back. I really don't see Maggie just going back. If you, whatever realignment, whether it's a deputy clerk, whether it's a account technician, whatever would backfill her position. I think the city of Nisswa really does need a finance director and a HR director. I really do believe that after taking a look at everything and the operations and how they're going. So I don't really see her necessarily going back. I see the potential of her continuing to do her job and then going back to her original wage, which that I wouldn't recommend. So
That's council members on.
Maggie, your contract is up December 31st.
December 31st.
Yep. So perhaps at that time, that's when a
Job
negotiation
description.
will be for a new job description to cement.
I think it's whenever if that's what the council, the
Yeah,
direction they want to go to, I think whenever that gets finalized, it would obviously have to go to the union, but my assumption is this would be under the supervisors union instead of the union.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, that would, I think, fall under supervisors union. But I think also though, if we get this set up so when negotiations are, maybe that'll put you in a better position if you agree with the job description change. So that when it comes up in the negotiations, you're temporary in this position now, negotiations come up, we change the job title and off you go. I mean,
so. I think because we're getting like way off topic into way other different topics, right? Union negotiation, like that's not a part of this agenda item. I understand there are different factors that come into this agenda item. So based on like all the conversation that I've been hearing and the things that have been thrown out, there's one of two pathways I see at this particular point in time based on the agenda item that was put on here for this special meeting. Is one, we can do what we did for the previous item, which is we can just decide to pause and not take any action right now. What I say that because I only say that because what I heard is we all said retroactively. So if we came back and did this, like, let's say at the September council meeting, we're going retroactive to a time, so she wouldn't be shorted, okay? So that's why I say that. Or two, we just have to have a motion. Anyone up here can make it. You have the budget impact, the different grades, the different steps. And again, this is just for the extra duties in this interim period. So we're not talking about, is Maggie's job gonna change? Is her title gonna, right? That's totally different conversation. So based on this, to keep us on track, those are the two pathways I see today. So we can pause and come back in September, knowing that we have all up here, I think I heard every council member say retroactive. So I think Maggie would understand that, we're not, nobody's slighting her for her extra work, or we can make a motion today. Anyone is capable to put forward that motion and amount.
I am. I just have one more question before I do so. What was, when did Miss Kiki submit her resignation? Do we have potentially that date?
I just want to be a little bit nuanced. Typically, we don't discuss personnel matters as it relate to your question at this particular juncture, sir.
Okay.
So
Can we say the last day she worked?
we
One moment.
should not. Yeah, we should not.
If I can be somewhat helpful, I mean, I know I
Keith,
put the staff recommendation there. I would possibly recommend that you move Miss Maggie to $43.54 an hour for a temporary term that would include up until when you decide if any a future job alignment is necessary or relevant.
do you have a motion?
Yes, I do.
Councilmember Zahn? Go ahead.
Thank you, Keith. I'd like to make a motion that the city council proceed with a comprehensive job review for Maggie Wentler, as well as a wage adjustment to grade 18, step 40, step 5 at $49.01, to include also retroactive pay from the date of July 21st.
Second.
Is there any additional discussion from council? Okay, hearing none. We have a motion and a second. So the key points in it were retroactive to July 21st, grade 18, step 5 at 4901. And why don't we do a roll call vote on this, starting with Councilmember Hall?
Yes.
Councilmember Zahn?
Yay.
I vote yay. Councilmember London?
Yes.
Councilmember Fraley?
Yay.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you, everyone. All right, our last item on here is organization assessment, review and discussion. Everyone again did receive the privileged and confidential memo, from the labor attorney as to our discussion here. I don't know if there were any specific motions we wanted to make. I do want to share one of the things that Keith and I had discussed at some point, I can't remember when, Keith, was at our strategic planning session on September 18th, because we know council would like to have an in-depth discussion about this where we aren't maybe restricted because we're not in a closed session today. We cannot go in a closed session today, of perhaps carving out the final hour of that strategic planning session of being in a closed session to discuss this in great detail. And then at that point, staff would leave, it would be noticed and whatnot, right? As a part of the forward-looking communication to the public. So I just wanted to share that because when we had talked about that, it seemed like a good idea to allow council that opportunity to confer with one another. And I don't know if I missed anything. Keith, if you want to add.
Madam Mayor, I don't think you are. I think the privilege memo is pretty complete and concise. There are portions of that organizational assessment that I would deem that the council can talk at a public meeting on. However, advice from council is if you talk about any specificity as it relates to personnel, elected officials personally, individual staff members, any conversations that you could, any person would be able to assume who you're talking about, you should refrain from unless you go to a closed session. So, Madam Mayor, I think you are right on.
Yeah, so I know there were two council members in particular that, had called the special meeting just for this, and we decided to merge it into one. So if council feels so inclined, we can have those discussions again with these watchouts, because we don't want to step onto anything we're not intending to step on. And I can try to gavel it or interject if we feel it's going in a bad direction, or a direction that is a little gray or dicey, or we can wait until September 18th, and we can do this in a closed session with all of council and have a full, robust, open conversation about that report. So Councilmember Fraley, I know you have an opinion, so I'd like to hear from you.
When don't I have an opinion? Yes, I'm one of the council members that called for this to be on the agenda going into close, knowing that we'd have to discuss certain things in close before they could come out to the public. Reason why is because I've had a lot of residents saying, where's the transparency? They know the structural report came in. They want to know the generals of it. And so I think that needs to get out to the public. And I know some staff are afraid that maybe some information, which I don't see in there, would be directed back to them. And I don't want that, if there is, to going back onto staff. So I think if we want to move this to the 18th to the close and talk, I'm not sure, but I think right now, if we could get some of the generals out as to what it said, that would be good too.
And Councilmember Zahn, you were the other one that called, so I'd like to let you talk, share your perspective too before I answer and jump in on Councilmember Fraley.
Our interim city administrator, Keith Hiller's last day is next Thursday. So we will not be having him to be able to, we will not have the author of this report to be able to engage and review the report with us. So
That's not necessarily true because he did this as a consultant, not as interim administrator. So we could, as council, choose to bring him to our strategic planning session for that last hour to be a part of the conversation.
okay. Are we not able to move this open meeting to closed to be able to discuss it as it's on the agenda right now?
That we could.
Advice from legal is because the special council meeting says organizational assessment review and discussion, highlighting discussion. The specificity is if you want to talk about anything that would be personnel related, I'll just use myself as an example. I want to talk about the performance and personnel matters as they relate to Keith Hiller. You would have to specify that if I was listed in that organizational assessment, and then you'd have an open meeting, and then you would move to close based on that under Minnesota statute, and you would cite it because it's personnel related. That is legal's recommendation. We have our city attorney here if he wants to weigh in differently. That's above my pay grade. But I just tried to parse apart what he was saying, and that is, we don't really have on there that we're going to talk about any individual elected official or any individual elected personnel, and proper notice should go out to that if we're going to do that.
Fair enough, understood. So let me ask then, in response to that, this is a pretty comprehensive document that you put together for us, taxpayer dollars that I believe we all unanimously voted for to receive. How many additions would we have to make for a special meeting to discuss the contents to its entirety of this document so we can actually have a discussion about it? Because when the agenda specific item came out, organization assessment review, that is the title of the document. The contents of said document are up for review / discussion. I don't know how many tranches or how many layers we would need to peel down into to be able to truly discuss this, the work that you did as a council, as I feel as is our right to be able to do so.
Yeah, I guess I got a comment with that. I would have never voted to have this done. Because the whole goal, I think, of this council and the people listening, watching, sitting here is transparency. And that's something that we've tried to do very hard as a council to the group. And on the front end, I had no idea that it was going to be a document, like Jesse just said, that's not going to be able to openly discuss, let even staff members know. Staff was all a part of it, and not have them review it. So I guess I'm only speaking for myself. I don't see that it has provided the city, the staff, or the residents then much value to have it done.
I agree.
And-
And it's on the basis, Councilmember Hall, of not reflective of the work that was done by you and your firm per se, right? It's just, if we have to put this thing in a box and put the box on the shelf, I could have taken $5,000 and done a lot more with it for the benefit of the taxpayers of the city of Nisswa. I believe we owe it to them as their representative elected officials to discuss the contents of what we paid $5,000 for.
Wait, sorry, there's multiple people. I want to be able to call on people because we are still getting feedback that people don't know who everybody is yet. So just so it's clear. So I'm going to go to Keith first and then Councilmember Fraley, I'll go to you.
Yeah, I completely agree with the two counselors. I do think there's information in that can definitely be discussed with the public. So the need for internal communications, outward-facing communications, the need for a strategic plan, the need for the Nisswa City Council Code of Conduct, creating accountability within the organization, reviewing the comprehensive plan, creating a positive work environment, a positive city culture, being involved in not-for-profits and service organizations, creating an inclusive environment, surveying staff as far as what their interests are for lateral movement and promotions, creating mentorships for people that are in new roles, so that they can grow from veteran leaders, how to do citizen engagement, position alignment and a reorganization of the organization. I think that in general can be discussed. Minnesota open meeting law, reclassifying the finance specialist, and then the future city administrator. So you can hire a city administrator and what traits the council desired and city staff desired in the hiring of that executive. I think those are definite topics that are public and that the citizens at large should be aware of. The individual comments from personnel and elected officials that were used to form those themes, I think is where you get into the diciness of it. So I think some of those topics are very valuable for the community and the council to consider as they move forward to improve the organization.
So the question I have is I know they're valuable. I know what we can discuss. We can't go into all the comments. It's just the backfill of the comments here. Those can be discussed. The question I have for council is we've had town halls in the back, and I know some of the municipalities around us, what they do is they have like Cross Lake is having their, come on in, this is what we're looking at doing. I'm just wondering if that might be a way that we can bring this to the public, have a town hall shortly.
Well, we have a town hall scheduled for.
Oh, is that
end of
the
September.
18th?
Yes, so we can
Okay,
have.
okay. So I think at that we
could
could,
Make that a key topic at the town hall, these ideas that came from it that we are able to talk about, like Keith said.
Right,
We
right.
absolutely can share there about the strategic plan and what the right organizational structure is and a comp plan and reorganization and
Conduct,
engagement
right.
with the community, right? Like,
let's go through the, I think that would be beneficial for the community to come in. And if we want, I think we should invite Mr. Hiller also to that meeting. But I know that you can't say, hey, these are the comments that, I asked these questions, these are comments, how they're written
you
and
can't talk
you
about
can't
that.
talk about. That's my opinion. That's where I'm standing. I don't know where the rest of the council looks at that. But I think we need to, instead of just putting out on the website, hey, here's a thing, we need to get the communication out to the public a little bit better than just the website, because a lot of people don't.
Well, we
Don't
do have the
look at
town
it.
hall scheduled for September.
Let's get the word out to the people. Maybe that could be listed in the Echo. Go ahead, Maggie.
The
You
town
are
hall, I
correct.
think, is the 30th of September.
Did you
So
say?
that is a great opportunity. And we also
I
have,
don't have my hearing aids in this morning because my ears are all plugged. Did you say the 30th?
30th, September 30th, there's a town hall already
5 to
scheduled.
7,
Perfect.
5 to 7.
I'd like to hear from other council members on that.
Okay.
Council members on.
There's a lot in here that needs to be discussed. All by itself, which was my initial, and I believe Councilmember Fraley's initial intent for having the organizational assessment review. Can we make a motion to go to closed session to be able to discuss this? We've taken time out of our working days to be here. This is on the agenda. I am not willing to punt again on first down. Do we have the ability to move this to closed session?
our labor attorneys flat out had said no when I asked him. But if you have a different perspective, Tom,
I'd like to hear from the city attorney on that one.
I don't have a different perspective. I don't have any reason to disagree with what your HR attorney has told you, but I don't, but I think it's a matter of timing, right? I think what you heard there, what I heard in that is not today, but potentially at that.
Strategic planning meeting?
Yes, isn't that what I heard, Keith?
Tom, yeah, I think you could have it at any meeting that you want to. You just have to clearly put it on the agenda. And Jesse, I think I can't disagree with, I can't agree with you more. I think it would be probably beneficial. It's just that I don't want to go against Tom, and I certainly don't want to go against legal. Do I think it makes sense what you are saying? 100%. But they put up the guardrails, and I like to operate within them. And if they're saying all we need to do is have it specifically on the agenda that we're going to talk about personnel and elected officials as it relates to the organizational assessment, I think that's about as clear as you can possibly be to the public. You open the meeting, you close it, and then you go right into discussion.
Yeah, that's good advice.
Fantastic. All right. Well, I guess we have clear direction as to how to be able to structure a agenda item for next time. So we have all 15 layers of the onion on there. It's just, this is the title of the document. I think the intention was clear as to what it was going to be covering. Is the labor attorney on right now?
no.
Okay. So there is conversations that have to be had regarding the contents of this work that was done. Work that was done, contracted at the direction of the Nisswa City Council, utilizing taxpayer money to address underlying issues along with the à la carte menu of suggestions, and appreciate that we have to discuss. I am not willing to punt this down the road. And furthermore, the strategic planning meeting on the 18th is at the community center. It is an all-day event. We have, this will be my fourth one. We have all city staffers there, or excuse me, department heads, and they roll in and out. I don't understand what this specific setting right now, especially moving into closed session and to be able to discuss this in private and moving back into open to adjourn, why that would be any different at that point in time. How is that?
I agree.
Because you're getting advice from your HR attorney that the agenda item should be more specifically articulated than it is today.
Was that piece of advice relayed verbally, or do we have that in writing?
That was in verbal consult with the attorney. And I'm fairly certain, because I had ad nauseum conversations with him about it, because I wanted to make sure that I was relaying the proper advice to city council on how they should proceed. Again, I can't disagree with you on your frustration at all. I'm just relaying the advice that I was given by council. And I can definitely see your point, sir.
Can we just do it at the next council meeting? Would that be easier? Is that an option?
Well, that's
I
sooner.
would like it on a separate meeting, not at a council meeting, because this is, it's a very in-depth. So I think you'd have to have a meeting with the council closed, have it on the agenda, have it on an agenda for a meeting. We discuss it. And then what we bring forth to the citizens in the town hall on the 18th, because this is going to take a lot of time, and those town halls are all day. Because then again, this goes back to the transparency. People will see this. I understand legal. I don't want to jump over legal. I'll follow what they say. But I know right now, people that are watching this are going to say this isn't transparent. Why did this I know you're frustrated, Mayor, and I know we need to move on, but I think we need to discuss it before we have that town hall on the 18th, so that we can, this is what we're going to talk about in there. Maybe I'm all wrong. Maybe I'm just way off, but I think it needs to be discussed.
I'm not frustrated. I'm fine if we want to do a separate meeting, open and close it, but we need to make sure all 5 of us are present. I will not be back from Europe until September 15th. So if two council members want to call it when I'm out of the country, I do not feel that is right because
No.
I am a part of this council as well.
All five of us should be.
All five of
should be
us
involved
need
in
to
that.
be able to be present for that, even though I understand law says a quorum is just three. To have this discussion, I think we need to be inclusive of everybody here. And I do want to state that to me, this is my lens. When I thought we were signing up and voting on an organizational assessment, I thought we were going to get an assessment back that was clear on, hey, let's go look at the history in Nisswa, for a reasonable amount of time, right? And then let's go back and also talk to the city's only city administrator and why the council decided to move from a clerk form of government to an administrator form of government, what that looked like over the years, how things kind of executed from an organizational, operational standpoint. What is the best structure moving forward, factoring all that in? I will say how this assessment felt to me was a tabloid magazine that people were just taking cheap pot shots at one another, which was completely unnecessary and does nothing to add value or drive this city forward in a positive direction, or to use it to score political points, because at a point in time when interviews might be done, maybe someone took umbrage with someone else, and maybe there was some coordination going on behind the scenes to make tabloid unnecessary attacks. And to me, that was where I feel frustrated, and I feel like $5,000 wasn't well spent on the city's behalf. So yes, we can go into closed session. I will repeat all of this there and more, because I have a lot to say too. Because I think that when I ran for mayor, I ran to listen to the people, to be transparent. I constantly heard from different council members, they didn't know anything going on out of City Hall. We are the elected officials. It is our responsibility to be able to answer questions to the public, to be able to carry their wishes, desires, their perspectives forward. And if that's wrong, I'll be wrong on that every day, but I will never stop fighting for that, standing in that position. So again, if you guys want to call a special meeting, or I can call it however we want to do it, I'm asking we all be there. I am not back in the country until September 15th.
Now, procedure is like okay, so yes, we all need to be present for it.
Yes.
Two,
Means we've
for
had some of them
background
going
for
on
doing
for
this
about-
kind of stuff, you need to talk to the staff and stuff like that. I understand what you're saying, because yes, some of it was like that. That I don't want to discuss in the closed session. I want to discuss
How to move forward.
moving forward. The other thing too is protocol states that, okay, I have somebody that comes to me and says A, B, or C, I wanted to put in this, but the city told me I couldn't, or why is this happening? What I do is because I'm a civilian at that time, even though I represent the city, I will direct them to the department head or the person they need to speak to. First, I'll say, you can talk to the city administrator and this department head, and if you want, I'll come down and be there when you discuss that. I can't make a decision. I don't have the authority to make a decision while I'm out there. And so as long as we know that, that's great. But yes, we're responsible to the citizens. They vote us in here. We need to be open. But no, it's not discussing everything that was said or the questions that were asked.
I
But
think we should
forward.
pick a date then now with all of us before we adjourn. Because I'm hearing council members doesn't want to keep punting. But unfortunately, we can't do it today.
You'll be back when?
I'm back on the 15th. Like
15th.
I'm coming home the 14th, which is a Sunday. So that week of the 15th.
If I can interject while you're looking at calendar, Madam Mayor. Number one, it's on the agenda while we're all here present today in quorum. And number two, I knew exactly what we were signing up for from what was presented to us in regards to the services or the proposal by Mr. Hiller's firm. Forgetting the name at the moment, sorry. And furthermore, number three, I would, especially after seeing the report and it put together, all contents related, I don't want to compromise the integrity of this gentleman in regards to what this came out to be. I don't think that, I know in my interview, and I would be hard pressed or I'd be curious to learn if other individuals at this council felt that interview was as you're suggesting something to be a tabloid material, or if it was malicious. It was not in that conduct at all. I believe the questions that were asked of me by Mr. Hiller in those interviews were consistent, likely, with all of the other interviewees that he had. And it's those results from those interviews that need to be discussed. Again, I will reiterate, because I disagree with our labor attorney's verbal comment in regards to the organizational assessment review discussion. It is on the agenda, originally proposed by myself and Mark to be a closed session, so we can do this while we're all here present. And there is no attempt to try to have a special meeting with any one person's absent. That doesn't do us any good if we're not all together. We owe it to those that, again, voted us in to be together at every meeting if possible. So I want to make those points clear. And again, I was sincerely under the impression that we are not able to move this to closed session to just do it today.
I don't think the answer has changed unless it has.
No, I just, I mean, it's the council's wishes. I'm just passing along the legal opinion, how they opined on it. Council is the governing body. If you do move to close, obviously you have to move to close, cite Minnesota state statute, reason for it, close the meeting. When you open it back up, adjourn at the end, and then just summarize it at a later date. If I've missed something, I'll let the city attorney weigh in on that.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. And so the HR attorney can probably give you the specific citation that would justify closing that meeting when it comes time to do that. You don't have that today. And the HR attorney can also help you clearly articulate the agenda item and what that should say. So if today can't happen, then the question is, will there be instruction to staff to put that on the strategic planning agenda? And how should that agenda item be written in order to cover that this doesn't happen again?
I think Councilmember Zahn, what you're, unless I'm hearing you incorrectly, is you're saying you maybe don't 100% agree and you'd like to close the meeting now, have the discussion now since we're all here, and then we can reopen the meeting.
City attorney relayed exactly what I said, but to his point, I don't have the proper ordinance, or excuse me, I don't have the proper instructions to be able to move this to closed session right now. And again, I'm not trying to put this in a gray area. I was under the impression that requesting an organization assessment review discussion was going to be satisfactory to discuss said organizational assessment review. So with that, if we're all under the opinion and not wanting to do this now and to do it at a later date, my next question would be perhaps then to Maggie is, what do we have scheduled? Since the mayor's already mentioned that the trip she's on, she'll be back September 15th. So do we have a workshop as of right now scheduled prior to the 16th meeting, or do we have one after?
I will say yes, at 5 o'clock, there is a workshop that has been, I'll say, scheduled. We don't have anything on it. We've left it for budget. But you have an hour because we've changed our council meetings to 6. So I don't know how much time you think you would like to have this discussion. If you think I'll say 50 minutes would be enough, or if you want to try and do it another day. Or the strategic plan, it's gonna be a long day, and then if you do it at the very end.
Or do we do it at the beginning?
Is there any way for us to do this on the council meeting on the 16th to go to closed, come back out? Just at the council meeting, go to closed, discuss it, go back to open, and then, oh crap, no, because then you'd have to have all that information on the agenda for the 18th, correct? Strategic plan.
Well, it has to be on the agenda no matter when it is, and it has to be.
Right, but isn't there a 3-day leeway on that for the agenda?
No.
Oh, PFM.
discussion too.
PFM's coming, right? Yeah.
You could do it at the end of the council meeting on the 16th.
Yes.
Past, where you
Right.
put that at
Yes.
the end of the agenda.
After,
You go to closed, you advise the public that you'll only return to open just to adjourn, so that people don't wait around for you to do that.
That works for me.
Then I'll make sure we've got the right statutes from our labor attorney on this discussion.
And if there is any clarification needed as to what the agenda item needs to be, please ask or provide suggestions for it so we don't get in this situation again.
Counselor, I will work with Maggie. We will get the exact specific language so that it meets your needs. I will share what you
We
want
can
to
do a
do,
page turn on this,
100%.
more or less, right?
Yes.
Whatever is within this document, I want to be able to discuss everything in here. That is my personal request, and I believe it was
Mine
Councilman
also.
Fraley's as well.
I think you're crystal clear, and I will relay that right down into personal conduct and personnel matters as it relates to elected officials and city staff you would like to discuss at the meeting. I'll make sure that I convey that to the labor attorney, and we'll get specific language so that you can conduct that type of business.
Thank you.
okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, the special meeting is adjourned. So did we say after the meeting?
At the last item on the regular schedule.
Okay, so probably like 7 something. Yeah, they are. You guys, well.
Yep.
I didn't say you.